We're going to introduce ourselves in just a minute, tell you why the Met is important and why now, why Dartmouth Arthur L. Irving Institute for Energy and Society is the place to do that. We'll share about our curriculum, interdisciplinary projects, and experiential learning tracks. Our faculty and mentors, we have a couple faculty members, in fact, we have a few faculty members here to tell us about that, and our mentor program. We'll tell you a little bit more about what Dartmouth is like. We'll introduce you to some more of the Met staff and the application and admissions process, and then take some of your questions at the end. And you can feel free to add those in the Q&A part of the webinar here. But again, we're really excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that this will be an informative presentation for you. So this is the team that's here today. I'm joined here with Professor Geoff Parker. He's the faculty director of the MET program. Dr. Amanda Graham, who's the director of the MET program as well. Dr. Megan Litwhiler is the assistant director for academic programs here at the Institute. And Dr. Charlie Donovan, who is a professor at the Tuck School, but also for the Masters of Energy Transition later this year. So they'll all be able to give you a great perspective of what we do here and how this amazing program has come to be. So Geoff, I'm going to hand it over to you. Oh, sorry, Amanda, I'm sorry.
Thanks so much, Madeleine. And again, thank you everyone for being here. We are excited to talk about this program. We're always excited to talk about this program. We've been working on developing this program for the last, 4 or 5 years or so, keeping an eye on the markets, keeping an eye on the employment trends, and keeping an eye on what the needs are in the energy transition space, right? And so after several years of thought and research and planning, we launched the program just this fall with our first cohort, and the intent here is to leverage the best of what we have at Dartmouth College in our multiple schools and our amazing residential location to provide a landscape view, a multidisciplinary view of the and actually not just a view, right, but a laboratory for developing skills and expertise in the energy transition space. If we go to the next slide, please. The planet is in a very interesting spot today, right? So energy has always been a fundamental importance for humanity, and it's more and more in our consciousness today, right? As we have energy systems that are trillion-dollar investments across the globe that are being challenged, right, by climate, by security, by geopolitics. It's a really interesting time to be in the energy space because we are undergoing so much change and we need so much creativity, so much leadership, and those challenges do not appear to be reducing, right, as the months and years go by. So in the United States and also globally, this is a challenge that is of fundamental importance and a real opportunity to lean in if you have the creativity and the skills to do so. Next slide. Because of this, right, there's a real wide array of opportunities to engage as a professional in this space, from serving as an analyst to serving as a coordinator to serving as a manager or leader across the energy sectors of transportation and the built environment and data systems and AI, and across the energy fuels spectrum, right, from renewables, other clean energy forms, and the legacy fuels that still make up 75 to 80% of our current energy systems, right? So there's tremendous opportunity to engage in the transformations, right, that we're seeking to forge in the energy and climate space. And then lastly, I'll give you a little bit of a preview of the major components of, of the Master of Energy Transition program that we have developed in order to meet those global needs and that employment outlook. Next slide, please, Madeline. You're going to hear more specifics in the slides to come, but at a glance, what we identified was there is a need for a short, concise, intensive program, right, that to gear folks up to be professionals in this space. And so we designed a program that is only 9 months long, which is really short and really intense. And we are leveraging the amazing physical properties of the Dartmouth College campus here in Hanover, New Hampshire. You'll hear more about that in a minute. So 9 months and 9 courses, so 3 courses per term. And we are just at the tail end of our fall term right now with our first cohort of students. And then 3 courses in the winter term and 3 courses in the spring term. And it's designed for students from a wide array of disciplines. We do not have a disciplinary requirement. You don't have to be an engineer or a political scientist or an anthropologist for this program. And in fact, that's one of the benefits of the program, right, is that students get to rub shoulders with each other and learn from each other as much as they learn from our faculty. And finally, for our international students, this is a STEM designated program, which means that currently international students are eligible for STEM OPT or the optional practical training opportunity. So that's just the very tip of the iceberg. Let me hand it over to Geoff for a little bit more getting into some of those details.
Yeah, so let me share with you a little bit about the Arthur L. Irving Institute for Energy and Society. That's the organizing sort of body for this program. So the degree is offered through with a kind of a partnership with the Guarini Graduate School, but the staff here at Irving and the faculty that we've and I'll tell you a bit more about that, are the ones who really deliver the program. So the Irving Institute's mission is to accelerate an affordable, reliable, and equitable clean energy transition for the benefit of all. And so the vision is a multidisciplinary community of researchers, experts, and citizens who will lead the decarbonization of the global economy. And so this program is really right at the heart of both the mission and the vision, and the students are just a central kind of part of that group of experts and citizens. Um, so next slide. So let's talk a little bit about sort of where we are. The Irving Institute is not within any particular school. So it's not in the engineering school, it's not in the business school, arts and sciences, or the medical school, but it actually stands both metaphorically and physically at the crossroads of campus. And so that's really important because these challenges are so complex. You know, we've got technical challenges, we have economics challenges, we have financial challenges in terms of how to structure things. And then we have the really thorny anthropological and social challenges of getting sort of current systems and the way they're embedded in society, and then migrating those over to future systems. And so that really takes a kind of an all hands on deck approach. And that's the way that the program itself is designed. We are fortunate to occupy what I think is the nicest building on campus at Dartmouth, and happily a very energy efficient one. We co-host the Sustainability Office, the Revers Center for Energy Sustainability and Innovation, a climate modeling and impacts group, and we have a number of Thayer School of Engineering faculty and their doctoral students and postdocs who occupy the various laboratories and spaces in the building. In addition, as you can see below, it's a magnet for students and staff and honestly community members to come in because it's just a beautiful, welcoming space. So we see a lot of study and collaboration. Next slide.
So Madeline, I'm realizing now that I I missed an opportunity, and I'm wondering if I can insert that now as we're about to talk about the program. I missed the opportunity to ask Charlie to speak a little bit to what he sees, right, as one of our faculty members, and one of our people who are faculty members who are bridging, right, between the academy and the real world. What do you see, Charlie, as the critical aspects of the why of this program as we start to get into the sort of the specifics of the how?
Well, thanks, Amanda. Yeah, and welcome everybody. I'll just say as background, as Amanda alluded to, I'm currently a clinical professor at the Tuck School of Business, teach on the MET. I have taught previously at Imperial College London, University of Washington, University of St. Gallen, but my career has also been made up of working for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, a couple of large oil and gas majors, and most recently, I have a role as principal economist for an asset management firm focused on sustainability. So my whole career has been trying to see like what is between what we do in academia and what the private sector needs. And it was really from that I was really attracted to join as a faculty member for this program because you don't have to do anything but to read the newspaper, but to realize that energy is the critical constraint now and some of the biggest megatrends that are playing out across the global economy. AI, that's the one that we all know about. That is not going to be fulfilled in terms of electricity requirements in the way that past technology waves were done. You have to wait 5 years for a gas turbine, even if you wanted to try. You've got coal plants that are coming to the end of their life. Nuclear is still decades away. And what we're seeing is a pattern of, mostly out of actually China, in which renewables are the critical way to fill that gap. And there's a lot of skepticism about that, but the data shows an entirely clear story. And the folks that are working on the ground, colleagues of mine, haven't really seen any let up in what has been a tremendous demand for young graduates who can come in, and whether it's in a strategy role, a finance role, something that bridges from engineering into sales, there's a number of sweet spots there that they need people who are very literate in new energy technologies and an understanding and a flexibility of mind about how to apply those to the challenges that they have. And that challenge is number one is growth. This as we've moved into a new paradigm in which the need for decarbonization is still there, but the need to grow on the back of these new technologies has become paramount. And I think that that's really above all what we're trying to do here is to get people out in the world who can participate in what is still a very, very attractive part of the market, and as ever, it still continues to be quite hot in terms of hiring.
Thanks, Charlie, for that perspective. Megan?
Thanks, Madeleine. So I'm going to talk a little bit or give you a little bit of an introduction into some of the core components of the Master of Energy Transition, and then we'll go into a little more detail on each of these pieces. But as Geoff and Amanda and Charlie have all alluded to, a really core piece of this program is that it is highly multidisciplinary. So for any career that you're looking for in energy transitions, whether you're coming from a business perspective or an engineering perspective, and you're looking to sort of shift into another field or to stay in that field, it's really important to be able to have this landscape view that Amanda was talking about and be able to dig into these different pieces of energy transitions and be able to apply them and be flexible in this space. And so the Met really gives you a dive into all of these different pieces. And we'll talk about how that plays out in the curriculum in just a minute. But of course, we also have world-class faculty in energy, climate, and society. And we're fortunate to have Charlie here and also our faculty director, Professor Geoff Parker. So hopefully you'll have some great questions for them after the presentation. And a big part of that is that we have faculty members on the Met, like Charlie, who are not only excellent educators, but are also working in real energy, who are real leaders in energy and climate. And so they're a big part of that real world experience, which is another big part of the Master of Energy Transition. So it's a short program. It's only 9 months. And so where some programs may have a full internship, we actually have that real world experience baked right into the program and into the curriculum and the coursework. So through faculty like Charlie Donovan and others, we're able to incorporate projects into all of the courses or many of the courses, so that you're actually working with real world partners or data in many of your classes. So you're getting these almost like mini internships as you work through the curriculum. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as well in a bit. And some other really core components of the program are just connecting you with other people. And so we're really fortunate at Dartmouth to have an incredible alumni network, and particularly in the energy and climate and sustainability space. And they are so eager to work with students. So through the Met, you have personalized career mentorship. So not only an assigned mentor, but you also have a whole sort of constellation of mentors to build uh, your own sort of mentorship committee, who can help you along your career path. And so we have our alumni network, and then there's other networking opportunities through co-curriculars that we'll talk some more about. And then you have also your cohort, right? This is a cohort-based program. So you have a tight-knit group of peers who are going to sort of model the very multidisciplinary space that you'll be in energy transitions careers. So our students come from a lot of different backgrounds and experiences. So just interacting with your peers through these real world projects in your courses gives you a really great model for what you'll actually be doing and how to apply that in the real world. So the curriculum has 3 core themes. And there's one course for each of these themes throughout the program, throughout each term. So it runs over our fall term, winter term, and spring term. And so we have a technology of energy systems, business and economics of energy, and science policy and impact of energy. So for example, this fall term right now, our students are finishing up with the technology of current and future energy systems, team dynamics, and professional communications, which is co-taught by Dr. Amanda Graham and myself. And this course is really an important starting point for students in the program because you're doing so much teamwork, and that's such an important part of what you will likely be doing on the job. And throughout this program, we give you sort of a laboratory to learn how to communicate in multidisciplinary spaces, how to present, how to work well in teams and be an effective leader in teams. So this is a really important part of the curriculum. And then in the fall term, we also have climate science and the energy transition. And I'm going to turn it over to Charlie for a minute to talk specifically about some of the aspects of his course that's taught in the winter energy markets. And oh, sorry, that's actually finance.
You're going to get me
It's taught in the spring, and it's
No
energy,
problem.
finance, and accounting.
No problem. So the basic model here is that everybody coming out of this program needs to understand corporate finance. It's a language above anything. And I always say to folks that come into this, you get too intimidated by finance. It's a trick that we pull to try to make it sound really complicated and therefore justify our high salaries, but it's not that complex. And really what that course is really about foundational concepts, risk and return, cost of capital, valuation, but applied immediately towards the energy sector. And so, what do you pay in a mergers and acquisitions? How do you figure out what you pay for a solar farm, one in development versus one in operation? How do you account for greenhouse gases? What are the major methods? How do you think about the risk management around for an asset on the associated liability of emissions? These are kind of just really basic applications of corporate finance and accounting that we have to really work very quickly to try to do. So there's a base portion. There's no expectation that people will come in with that background. So there's almost like a boot camp that's where that class starts. But right away we start, rather than continuing that into its theoretical depths, we start applying those basic concepts right away towards companies, assets, portfolios that operate within and have exposure to the energy system.
Thanks, Charlie. I'll hand it over to Amanda to go into one of our more detailed part of our program, the course integrated projects.
Thanks, Madeleine. And Geoff, I'd be happy if you wanted to chime in on this. This is a really important part of how we teach. you can't just use classroom experience, book learning, and hypotheticals, right? If you want to be effective in the real world, right? And because it's such a short program, that puts an extra need, right, on ensuring that students have a variety of touch points with real world stakeholders and with real world problems. And there are plenty of them, right, for us to engage in. And we leverage a significant and growing network of industry and municipality and nonprofit organizations and contacts, and work carefully to identify which projects and which project-oriented questions have good alignment, right, with the learning objectives of individual courses, and have timelines, right, for the endeavor that line up also with our 10-week term. And so again, it's not all of the courses, but we've 2 of our courses this past fall, and I think several of our courses in winter and spring will in some way, shape, or form, in some level, engage with real-world data sets, real-world stakeholders, real-world questions and problems and challenges, and share the results of coursework with those stakeholders in order to try to have an impact even while you're a student. So if we go to the next slide, we featured a couple of the projects that have been part of the Technology of Current and Emerging Energy Systems course. And you'll see that these have a real range of, some of them are connected with the Dartmouth campus, some of them are connected with local businesses, some of them are connected with utility companies. So there's a range of options for the scale and the scope of the learning opportunity that you have with these projects, but it's all driving towards, the shared learning objectives of the individual courses and overall for the educational program. Geoff, do you want to say a few words about your
Yeah, I
experience with
mean,
this kind of learning?
this is a really key component of the program, and as Amanda said, it's a way to plug in to real organizations who have real challenges, but also to stay current. So one of the things that you worry about when you're an academic institution is we run on a time cycle that's sometimes slower, honestly, than industry or government or other areas of our society. And so this helps us sort of understand what current issues are, challenges, tools, techniques, and available data. It takes significant effort, but in my experience of doing this for many years as a professor, it pretty much always adds a tremendous amount of value. So I think it's one of the things that's really distinctive is this through line of projects that go throughout the curriculum.
Yeah, I love how the projects just change. They will change every year, they'll change every term, and nothing's sort of ever guaranteed, but we want to stay current, as to Geoff's point. Well, I love the projects, but I really love the career treks. This is one of the highlights of my year, and when I talk about it. This is the treks are really an opportunity for you to travel with your classmates. The group goes together, but you also get to network and you get to just see what's happening in each of these locations, from an energy point of view and whatever points that they can sort of leverage to teach you about what they're doing. So recently we took our students to Boston to check out the sort of clean tech sector there. The students had an opportunity to go to the Climate Tech Summit at Greentown Labs, which is one of the largest incubators for clean tech, the clean tech sector. And it really illustrates what they're learning in the classroom, but also what's happening on the ground in Boston. And Boston's just a unique place for that industry. And then this December, the group will be going to New York City and Houston, sort of on a back-to-back trip, or sort of a around the country trip. They'll be hitting up New York to familiarize themselves with the finance sector and how the finance sector is influencing and partaking in the energy development, especially the energy transition. And they'll be checking out the investment banking sector, and just all around what's happening in energy in New York. And there's a number of alums who are at banks, at insurance companies, and at other companies that are based in New York, but have impact in the power and utilities sector, natural capital, ESG, the oil and gas departments, and whatever firms that they're representing. So it's a really exciting and dynamic place to go. And again, it's constantly changing. We have a speaker who actually comes to talk about what his investment banking company is doing, but he's really just talking about the finance trends are doing in New York, and every year that talk changes completely in what they're looking at. Houston, of course, is a major energy hub in the country for most energy, especially oil and gas companies, who are really, and a lot of them are focused on the energy transition themselves. And I have to say that there are a number of major consulting firms there that are also really focused on these companies and the energy transition. And again, a number of alumni and friends of the college who love hosting students. And really, it's a great place for those company visits and seeing what things are happening on the ground there. And also a very different place from Boston and New York, as you can imagine, if you haven't visited that Houston before. And finally, the Bay Area and San Francisco will be a spring trip for the group. And as you know, or as you might imagine, it's a great destination for the clean tech industry, and a real unique place also for EVs, AVs, the tech sector. And the tech sector really sort of, they have their problems and their environmental challenges, and they sort of will dictate what happens in that area. And again, another very unique place compared to Houston, New York, and Boston. So really gives a big outlook of what the country is doing in their different areas, and will give you a huge opportunity to network and to meet, again, the Dartmouth alumni. That's a really tight community, but also just other people who are at those companies. Just before this talk, I was downstairs talking in the kitchen with a bunch of Met students who were talking about their Boston experience and just saying how it was so exciting, but really tiring because there's so many things happening. But they are really looking forward to going to the other destinations because of their first experience at Boston. So just to chime in with a couple sound bites from them directly. And now I think I'm passing it back on to Geoff to talk about our faculty on the program.
Indeed. Yeah, so we have a number of faculties. So you've already met Charlie Donovan, but his photo will show up in a moment. But alphabetically, we've got Song Chen. And so Song is joining us as a new faculty member who specializes in sort of grid and transmission analysis, and will be teaching the data analytics for energy and climate class, which is a really critical topic. So much as Charlie was saying, you need to be able to read financial statements, and that's sort of the basic literacy of working with managers and on management teams. I would argue that a basic literacy in data analysis is also just critical in this day and age. We have Shushen Song, and she just joined us as a new postdoc, but also a teaching fellow lecturer. And she works with Aaron Mayfield, who has done a tremendous amount of work in the energy systems and climate modeling, energy systems modeling space. And then eventually, over time, when Shushen kind of quote graduates as a postdoc, we expect that Aaron will end up taking that class over. Krista Daniels will be teaching our community and global resilience in energy transitions, and that's a really important class because it gets to the and society part of the Irving Institute for Energy and Society's mission to really understand, well, what are the impacts of the current energy system on human health and well-being? What are the trends and how is that likely to evolve over time? And how do we think about that in terms of resiliency? So next slide, please. Charlie just gave a bit of an overview. So a critical course in finance and accounting for the energy transition. You've met Amanda episodically, as well as Megan, with the team dynamics and professional communications course. Chris Geiterman teaches our climate science and energy transition course, and that's in the fall, so he's wrapping that up. Next slide. And we have Megan Litwhiler, who you've also met here, who co-teaches the team dynamics course with Amanda. We have an expert in energy law and policy who's lived for many years in Denmark, has sort of world-class expertise in wind industry, and really understands sort of the interplay of law, policy, and then technology deployment. And so she'll be teaching the energy law and policy course. And then finally, we have a second electricity grid expert, Junbo Zhao, and he teaches our technology of current and future energy systems. And he just joined us as an associate professor.
So another panel of humans, another community of humans that are deeply, deeply engaged in the Master of Energy Transition program is our alumni, our ranks of alumni from Dartmouth College. There are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals who have graduated from Dartmouth, from the Tuck Business School, from the Thayer School of Engineering, all at Dartmouth, who have energy expertise and climate expertise all across the fields. And we are really privileged to have about 18 or 20 of those alumni serving on our advisory board here at the Irving Institute. And these are 4 of those individuals who have signed up to be mentors for our MET students. Every single one of our 20 MET students this year is matched with an alumni mentor. And those mentors work with each other, right? To say, hey, I have this student, but I think that she should talk to XYZ. Can you connect her? So not only is there a sort of individual guide, but that sort of opens up a whole set of networks for folks to talk with. And so this, I think, is one of the elements of the program that really helps it to stand out is the degree of individualized and customized attention from people in the field who can help to provide guideposts to our students as they're navigating the job space, whether it's for the first time or whether it's because folks are interested in doing a career switch or a career pivot. Each of these individuals has spoken in the class. And our students have really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know them because they don't see the engagement with students as a burden. They see it as a real delight and an opportunity to be inspired as well as to give back. So it's a really rewarding part of the MET program design.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, we're coming towards the end of our presentation, but I want to tell you a little bit more about Dartmouth's West End for those of you who weren't able to join the Guarini presentation before this one. Dartmouth, or the Irving Institute, is situated right between the Thayer School of Engineering and the Tuck School. You can kind of see the Tuck School out of Amanda's window, and also or Megan sort of sitting right in front of the Irving Institute with Thayer over her right shoulder. So you can kind of see where the building's situated on campus. And it's a really dynamic part of campus. It's probably the most recently built, although there's a number of dorms being built on campus currently, so they won't be the newest buildings pretty soon, but it's still pretty brand new around here. And it's a really dynamic spot. The Tuck School has a number of dorms behind it, so there's a lot of students in this area of campus. And I timed it this morning with my daughter. It's a 5-minute walk to Baker Library, so really short and right up the street, and probably a 10-minute walk to town. So it's a great location, especially for those of you who are also interested in engineering, computer science, entrepreneurship, business, and just all the intersections of the liberal arts education. And I have to say, now that we saw some snow flurries this morning on campus, that campus has taken really well care of by the facilities team. So everything's walkable, even in the middle of winter. The sidewalks are groomed and taken care of. And there's a lot of walking space. It's not, even though the area is very hilly, you don't have to walk up and down a lot of hills to get to places on campus. So it's really easy to get around. And there are also some local buses that take you to local towns nearby. Having said that, Hanover is about 2.5 hours north of Boston, about 5 hours north of New York City, and 3 hours south of Montreal. There are a number of buses. I can't remember now. Was it eight to 10 buses to Boston every day, both to the airport and to downtown Boston? There are 2 buses a day down to New York City, and Montreal is just a 3-hour drive north. So we're really lucky, in my opinion, because I've lived here a long time, to live in a really quiet and remote part of the country, but really easily accessible to major cities and airports if you need to get to them. So it's a really beautiful campus, and I think that's why the alumni community is so strong, because this community is so tight, and it's just in a unique part of the country. And I wouldn't be amiss by at least talking about the other members of our team who aren't here today, Jackie, Casey, and Beam. They all play a really strong part in making sure that the student experience is really for top notch. So Jackie helps source a lot of the projects that Geoff and Amanda talked about. She and Casey and Beam also led, along with Megan, the career trek to Boston last week. So they're a really important part of and faces for the MET program. So just making sure that I talk about them and that you'll hear from them if you apply to the program. And so finally, the application process. So the MET is housed in the Gorini School of Graduate and Advanced Studies. And that is where you would fill out your application. You go to their website and fill out your application there. Also, we can put the link to the application or on our website in the chat for you. So you'll be able to find it. It is also in the next slide. And you can submit your applications online. All of the prompts are there, but you'll make sure that you designate the MET as the desired degree program. And on all of these sort of and the supplemental application pages sort of follow up after that. You'll be submitting 3 letters of recommendation, preferably 2 of them from college professors. But if you're a little bit further out from your first degree, you can add an extra one from an employer, sort of vouching for your character and your professionalism. So you sort of use that as a good guidance for you, but not necessarily a rule of thumb. And we do not require or accept GRE scores, so there's no need to submit those. And I think there's some questions about transcripts. And yes, you will submit your transcripts, and they will be assessed by the Gorini School. So you don't need to sort of translate them yourself. The Gorini School will manage that process. And our first deadline is coming up on January 15th. That's the priority deadline, and I recommend getting your applications in by then if you can, to make sure that you're competitive in all of the spots that we're recruiting for. We are hoping, this year we have a cohort of 20 students, and we love that size, but we may grow a little bit next year depending on demand. So please, put in your applications early so we can make sure to get you a spot if you want one. The final deadline is March 15th, though, so that's sort of the ultimate deadline, but I do recommend getting it earlier rather than later. So the tuition is up on the screen. That will be the tuition for next year. And you can also find a lot more information, and you probably received information if you joined the Gorini session before this about fees and expenses that you might incur as a student once you're on campus. But there are a number of need-based scholarships, and you should indicate that you would like a scholarship at the time of application and not wait until after you've submitted it. However, applications are not assessed with that information, so you do not need to worry about if you ask for a scholarship, whether that will be taken in consideration on your acceptance. That has nothing to do with it. We just need to make sure that the financial aid process is done concurrently with the admissions process. So yeah, please indicate that, and refer to the Met website for a little bit more information about that's specific to international students or for domestic students. There's certain things that you need to fill out according to that, and that's all on the website. That is right there. And if somebody could help me by putting a link to our website in the chat, that would be wonderful. And so now we have an opportunity for questions. So I think there are some in the Q&A now, so we can start talking about those. And I'll just take the first one about whether this program is online, in person, full-time and part-time. So it is fully in person. It's a residential program, and it is full-time. So there isn't a part-time aspect to this program at this time. Amanda, I don't know if there's anything you want to add about that.
I don't think so, but Geoff, did you have a
Yeah,
comment there?
I mean, I think, you know, we're starting it now as a fully residential in-person program. We will explore that in the coming years, but for the time being, it's meant to be full-time and you know, really get people here on campus and bonded to both the beautiful place and to one another.
So there's a question about a focus on lobbying state policymakers and Congress. Is that addressed in perhaps the energy law and policy course that is offered?
So I would say that I would not say that there's a focus on lobbying. I would say that there is a focus on ensuring that you fully understand and appreciate both the state and the national level dimensions of energy law and regulatory processes and policy development. So certainly the participation of states and city and major cities and metropolitan areas in advancing clean energy policies and clean energy action is huge. It's hugely important, right? And understanding how things operate at those levels is really important. So if you wanna understand, right, the state and national and international context of energy law and policy, that's exactly what will be the focus of the energy policy course.
Thank you, Amanda. Let's see. I think a couple of these I can just type the answers to because they're very specific to the person. And we addressed the cohort size. So yeah, we currently have a cohort of 20 students, and probably a little bit more than that for next year. But it's working out well for the program, and it keeps the program really tight knit.
I would say to Thomas, is it possible to apply as a recent graduate already working in the energy industry? The answer is a resounding yes, absolutely. Right. So our current cohort is made up about 50% of students who are fresh out of their undergrad and about 50% of students who are beyond that time frame. Right. So if you look at the program and you identify the curriculum and the opportunities in the career tracks and the project-based courses to be of value to you, absolutely you should apply.
Thanks, Thomas. Actually,
How demanding is the course?
yeah.
Yeah, this is a good question, and I would love, Megan, for you to join me on that one too. The 3 courses, I mean, where we were really careful to ensure that each term you would have a variety of types of courses, right? So you don't have all of your finance courses at the same time. You don't have all of your technology courses at the same time. We sprinkle them out through the year. But in addition to having 3 courses that are really divergent and challenging in their own ways and potentially have project components, which can be intensive, we also talk about the importance of recognizing that there is actually a 4th class that you're taking, right? Which is the work and the time that you need to devote to your career discernment and your job search, right? And so we counsel our students to anticipate that they're spending about as much time on that process every week as they would spend on a class in a given week. And so that is, I think, what makes it really a full load. In addition, there are all sorts of opportunities across campus, right, to benefit from guest speakers, from boot camps, from other learning opportunities that really help to sort of broaden and sometimes fill in gaps because we can't do everything in 9 courses. So I think that you get, I mean, in any graduate program, you get out of it what you put into it. This is really designed to be, a full-time experience. So how demanding is the course? How many studying hours are expected per week? You know, um, Geoff, how would you tackle this? I mean, obviously there's variations. It's the faculty design their individual courses, but we do try to have a balanced load.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to think about it is a typical class will meet in session for about 3 hours a week, approximately. And then you would expect to spend, rough order of another 1 to 2 times that. So think maybe another 3 to 6 hours of prep time, reading, project work, meeting with potential sponsors. So think of that as really getting pretty close to a full-time job. And that's not that I want to make this sound like work, because it's actually, a really rewarding intellectual experience, but it is full-time. And there are other things that will likely take up time. So, for example, your unofficial fourth class is meeting with mentors, exploring different career options, networking, really understanding what's out there in the space. And then, Dartmouth is a really interesting place. It has clubs, it has a ton of lectures, it has a lot of extracurricular. You may find yourself hiking the Appalachian Mountain, or floating down, the Connecticut River, or skiing on the Dartmouth Skiway, or doing any of a number of things that make the place so special. So you do want to have time for that as well. So that's sort of a very rough rule of thumb.
Geoff, would you like to speak to the acceptance rate?
Yeah, so we're in year one, and what was really interesting is that people found us. Because this is a pretty niche program, and that means that you're looking for something special. And so some of what would normally sort of come out in a selection process, if you were going for something like a general interest degree, like a Master of Business Administration, a lot of that already takes place in the search process. So the accept rates are higher than you would expect for MBA. But you know, we'll see what happens over time. With demand, and then our goal is not to have some incredibly selective program, but instead it's be able to serve the people who find us, who we think are going to add to the community, and who we think we can help, you in your goals. So that's a general of necessity answer to the question.
Thanks, Geoff. Amanda or Megan, would you like to talk about the career treks and whether you should go on all four, or you could just be selected for one?
Sure,
Go
I can
ahead,
talk
Megan.
about that. So, we do have 3 career treks. So, as Madeleine talked about, we just went to Boston with our students for a career trek there. And then we have another career trek coming up in December that will go to both New York and Houston. So, that's combined into one trek. And then the third is in the spring, which will be to San Francisco. So, we did require the Boston Trek this year as actually part of our team dynamics and professional communications course. So all of the students attended that trek. The other 2 are very strongly recommended, but not required. But we do very strongly recommend those. It's a really fantastic experience, both on the career front and also for just experiential learning and being out there and visiting these different types of industries and organizations. It's a really, really valuable part of the curriculum. So we do really, really strongly encourage all of them. And pretty much most all of our students are attending all three. So no, you don't have to pick just one of them. You're not assigned to them. They are all open to you.
Thanks, Megan. Amanda, would you like to take Sam's question about having a background in psychology or public and or policy work?
I'd love to. Yeah, Sam, it is not a disadvantage, it's an advantage, right? So we have history majors, we have international relations, we have physics, we have environmental studies, we have, I think we have econ, and we do have a few engineers, but not that many. So we really, in this year's cohort, so we are sincere in our welcoming of every discipline. And the reason for that is that the energy challenge and the climate crisis needs people from every single discipline. So frankly, psychology and public policy would be a tremendous, background to bring to this work. And would absolutely be welcome as part of our cohort. So 100% welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. Joe has a question about graduating in the fall semester. When would be the best time to apply for the program? You want to take that, Amanda?
Well, we are doing admissions for a 9-month program that starts in September, right? And so if you're graduating, say, a year from now, right, then I think that would be the application cycle you'd look for, would be to be able to enter in probably the fall of 27 as opposed to the fall of 26. If you're graduating now in this fall semester, right, then for sure this next cycle would be appropriate for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I can
think
add
so.
maybe one more thing to that. Just I'm not sure if this is the question they're asking, but it might be helpful. You don't have to have completed your undergraduate degree. You do need a bachelor's degree for the program, but if you haven't completed it by the time you're filling out the application, that's okay, as long as you've completed it by the time you begin the program, and you can send those final official transcripts over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for elaborating, Megan.
I see someone asking about the different renewable energy sources. So we should hit pretty much all of them, because we've got the technology, of current and future energy systems. They're going to be discussed in the law and policy course. They're going to be discussed in the energy and society and impact and resiliency. They'll be discussed in some of the economics, so we'll understand the economics of different types of systems. So I think that's actually a through line that's going to hit a lot of the different components of the program.
Charlie, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just say, building on what Geoff said, it's not, there are other programs out there that if you want to be a renewable energy technologist, or you want to learn how to, I don't know, service wind turbines, or, those are more technical degrees that if you're interested in that, you should think about what aspect of that renewable energy value chain you want to work in, and what's the kind of degree. I think what this program does, and I think what Geoff's alluding to, is that you've got an entire global system that is in transition, and you have to understand the system in order to understand how you can best intervene in your own career, and how a company can intervene, how a government can intervene. But it's really about a way of thinking about a dominant system and all of the features of it, and then this new system that, for mostly as reasons for costs, that we are inevitably transitioning towards. And so whether that's about X or Y technology, or whether it's about X or Y country, for me, and I think probably in the program design, is less important as a specialty than it is to understand the entirety of that dynamic. Because really what you want is a base that gives you options to pursue a lot of different lines in your own career, and gives you the flexibility and the language, essentially to do that. So I just add that because I am familiar. There are a lot of programs out there that work mostly at a technical level on specific renewable energy technologies. I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish here. I think what this program is about is something that's a foundation that allows one to think at a systems level about what this transition is and where the opportunities sit within it.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. So the next question is about whether the interview is part of the application process, and yes, it is. So once the application has been vetted and looked at, we then will reach out to schedule an interview with you before the sort of final deadline. So yeah, please do look out for that if you are shortlisted during the application process. Thanks for asking that. And is there a minimum undergraduate GPA? Have we do we publish a strict number? I don't think so.
No, we don't, and that's by design, because the goal here is to be holistic in trying to assess a fit. And again, the fit goes both ways as to what people can contribute to the community here and how we can help people in achieving their goals. And there's also we're in a very global space, and so it's not really comparable from one country or one educational system to another, and so we do have to take a pretty custom view, if you will.
Yeah. Thanks, Geoff. I think that was the last question, and we are pretty much at time. So that was pretty impeccable timing. So thanks for all of the wonderful questions. I have put my email and my Calendly in the chat, and you can also screenshot this image or the slide. It will give you a good, if you have any questions or if you want to join office hours, that as you're during filling out the application, please do reach out to me. I'm here to help you make this a successful process. So yeah, please do reach out, and thank you again for joining us this afternoon. It was really lovely to share this hour with you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.